Hello, it's Brian once again. Happy New Year. It's 2019 and here's another year of the Maythorn Monthly. I conceived the Maythorn Monthly a year ago. The Maythorn name comes from my past, and the tree in the background to the titles that I'd produced by March comes from a Woodland Trust video which high speeds through a year in the life of a hawthorn tree. All I had to do was to use various parts of this video in the background and put various titles up front to announce the various features in the Maythorn Monthly. I kept the hawthorn tree image for about 6 months, but I was getting a bit bored by then and started to look for new things to do, particularly with bricks, as you may have noticed last month. In 2018 I was flying from Liverpool to Barcelona for my breaks in Marina d'Or and booking a train from Barcelona Sants to Oropesa a few hours after the flight was due in, just to be on the safe side. Most of the time the flight was on time, so I've spent quite a lot of time over the last 12 months at Barcelona Sants station and the parkland and the lake that are right next door to it. These pictures are from January 2018, a year ago, and typical of the weather you will get in the winter. People are out strolling, cycling, and just sitting by the lake reading. If I take an evening flight into Barcelona, I will stay just outside the city somewhere, usually at Castelldefels, which is near the airport. There's a castle on top of the hill there where I did a few reports from in last year's videos, and here's an idea of the sort of thing I was up against. Well, I was waiting for a bit of peace and quiet so I could do my reports, and I waited about 5 minutes for this lot to walk past, but I eventually moved a little bit down the hill from the castle and managed to do my report down in this location. At Marina d'Or there was an ongoing story to do with the building Vistamar 3. We have to go back to 2017 to March when this all started, and 12 months of building work took place. I followed the project right through to the end when not only was the building work complete, but the pool was all refurbished as well. Not far from Vistamar 3 I spotted this cement mixer combination delivering by quite a high up route a load of concrete onto a small building site that had been cleared. I wasn't sure what this was until later in the year, and it turned out it was the Oropesa Council's offering of free Wi-Fi to all. Also in February last year, the local supermarket Mercadona closed down for a few weeks for some renovations. The first signs of this were the car park, and you couldn't see what was going on inside until the store reopened.
So Brian's in London at the moment, so he's left us two in charge.
And we're going to be taking a little look at a flat in Liverpool.
Being in London meant I could meet up with the owner of this flat in Kirkdale and discuss a few of the problems. We've had water leaks down the back of the building, we've had a leaky tap that had to be replaced, we've had heaters hung on the wall in ridiculous places, cables just hanging not clipped down. There was a cracked socket that didn't pass the electrical inspection, and there was a lot of rubbish from the previous tenant to be cleared out and cleaning to be done, which Frank came over to do for me. And then when I went back a few weeks later, I noticed a lot of little black specks at the back of the property in the bathroom and the kitchen. On closer examination, these appeared to be tiny little dead insects, obviously hatched out and not been able to survive. Then I got Leslie, my electrician, to come over and do the electrical inspection, which takes a few hours, and to replace the oven and the hob, which were missing. I found a tap at Screwfix, which was identical to the one that was fitted 10 years ago, and so I replaced that. And I think we're just about ready now to market the flat.
Solid gold one. 77 WABC.
Brian's Mom. I asked for a drink, you see, because I'm getting a bit hoarse here.
It's so horrific, the Dr. X series, that you can only feature it on a late night show.
Turn on the radio every day, how simply wonderful. Hooray, 247 is where you'll see music and laughter, BBC. So when you're down feeling awfully low, here's what to do to make your blues just go. Open the pages of your radio times and turn on the radio, move your blues away.
The greatest team in the world. Keep the case, solid gold time machine of America.
Mrs. Butler's eldest, playing all the hits and more. Billy Butler's doing it for Radio City on 194.
Spotlight carpets, leave the others in the shade.
There's a massive carpet clearance on now at Spotlight, and we only got to the first line. How about that?
Tea, coffee, sugar, and gramophones.
And now, from the Sewage Room, Salford, it's Radio 1 Club! Oh dear, let me press a button.
Don't worry, I'll do it for you.
The voice of Radio 1.
It's the Dave Cash Show.
Cheshire County Council says it'll support moves to win more government aid to keep the controversial Wrexham to Chester line as a double track.
Where's the other half?
Calais.
And a very good morning from me to you to the breakfast show. Cut!
194
Britain's #1 radio station.
Frank, I'm tired, I'm fed up, and I'm going to bed.
As you know, I like to do my videos with decent camera and a little bit of preparation, but sometimes just out for the day and no plans to do any video, and I see something I'd like to capture, and that's where the phone comes in. And there's a couple of things here that I did catch on my phone when I wasn't expecting them. I quite often catch a train from Chester railway station, and from the platform I can see a block of flats, a development called the Leadworks, where I used to own a flat, and I actually thought I'd probably keep it until retirement, because I saw myself in retirement as just wanting to walk out the front door and hop on a train and head off somewhere. Anyway, things didn't work out with that, but I remember quite clearly that from my balcony at the back there was a huge bank building behind. Well, now there isn't. I was standing on the platform this day during 2018, and there it was, the demolition taking place of a bank building. Okay, branches are closing down all around the country, but this was a huge headquarters for an American bank, and it was just being demolished, so quite a surprise. So that was a look at the Continental Market from my home area at New Brighton on the Wirral. And there was one other event in the summer that didn't make it onto the Maythorn Monthly. I started filming at the magazine pub, which was one of my regular haunts some years ago, in my drinking days. And this is a pub that overlooks the river, and there's a huge long promenade, miles long, where people gather when there's any event on the river. So this was a day in the summer when there was an event on the river, and the reason that I was there and I filmed it, but I didn't actually show it, was that I couldn't see anything. And I'm not sure what the people who came to gather like this thought, unless they had binoculars. But see for yourself, and I'll come back to this later and explain. Oh, and there was one clue that something was going on, because there was a one-gun salute. How exciting. This is the type of promo that I make to advertise properties. The websites on the internet encourage you to make a short video if you're advertising a property, and so I make a proper little 30-second promo. I'm looking after this flat for a southern investor, and I showed him this promo and he didn't like the mattresses on the floor. And although they were to show how much space there was, I did make a later version of this with them missing. In the later part of the year, I've been coming out of the flat in darkness and been quite impressed as I walked out onto County Road to get a bus that the word Goodison appeared in the sky over the top of the shops. I've never actually been to the front entrance of Goodison Park. In my youth, I used to do discos at the social club there, but it was round the other end. So here's the front entrance, and then I thought, to be fair, because in Liverpool you really have to balance out Liverpool and Everton and not show bias, it's a bit political in a way, I decided to go round to Liverpool's football ground, which isn't that far away, and see what was going on there. And there's a huge development which is only just starting, so at the moment all I can show you is these hoardings which show what it's going to be like. But that might be something worth looking at again in the future. Time to start updating some of the old stories, like this one from June in 2015, when on the Marina Door Video Diary I showed this pile of crazy paving, and this is what it looks like now. I also showed you a bit further along towards the Chinchilla Bridge that some timber was being laid. I didn't quite know what they were going to do here, but here's today's pictures, and this is the boardwalk that's been put down on that. So there you are. 3 years ago we showed the start of it. It was done fairly quickly, but I never went back. Now I have. About 12 months ago I noticed the gardens, the main gardens by the hotel, had a new exit to the beach, but it was just wired off to stop you going through it. It got worse. It didn't get opened up. This is what it looks like now, and to me it's such a waste, because why did they even open it up if they weren't going to use it? From the gardens along the front here, you'll be able to walk straight out onto the beach, and there's the sea. Did you notice the cranes in the background in those pictures? They're the cranes on the site of the Edificio Miramar, which I'd showed you as a building site. What I haven't shown you so far is what they're going to look like when they're finished, but you can have a look at that on the hoarding that's up in front of the site. So here's a quick look at what they're going to look like. A lot better than the ones that we're living in. Why am I showing you a fat cat? Because they're rare in Spain. Most of the cats live wild, they're not allowed into the house. This one lives in a cafe in the main Oropesa town, has a collar, and it's well looked after. I'd not seen this sticker before, but it's now on Danny's van. In fact, it's now Adrian's van, as Adrian runs the Danas business from the street where I live. That's the street where there were the blue lines going along the pavement. They dug it all up, dumped all the rubbish over on the field opposite, and they buried some cables. I'm inclined to think that the triple hose they buried was to carry fibre broadband, fibre optic cables, because I've seen this hoarding at the end of the street, which is advertising the Netjar fibre offering at €5 plus IVA per month. I'd originally gone down to look at the pavement because the paving flags have been coming apart and become trip hazards in recent years, and I could see from my balcony that they were doing something about it. It was when I went down to have a look at all this, they'd started to take them up, presumably for replacement, that I saw the blue lines, and later on saw the whole place dug up and these cables put down. Going back to Barcelona and some bits of video that you haven't seen before, I take a lot of video when I go to a place that's well known. I have other YouTube channels where people are interested in buses and trains and other transport, and people are interested in property. So the Bendy bus would have been of interest to some of my viewers, and the property people would have noticed that there was a building going on to the right of Barcelona station as we look at it, and it'll be no surprise to most people that it's student accommodation. Yes, it happens in Spain too. If you've been to Barcelona Sant station, you may know the cafe at the back here, where I would have said it had rather a rude name, but a couple of years ago it changed its name to Como. It's been completely refurbished, and there are charging points, mains and USB, at every table. These pictures were taken on November the 7th, and I was eating at a Mediterranean restaurant that evening, and I didn't know it was Diwali that day because I think it changes every year. So I took these pictures with my phone, including this one of the staff, and my waitress was the girl on the right who spoke good English and was very charming.
If you watch the Maythorn Monthly regularly, you'll know that we take some pictures and videos with a drone. Now my sister Jess got a drone for Christmas, and this is how we got on.
This drone is typical of the sub £100 drones in that it doesn't have much control over it. The main reason for this seems to be that it does everything very quickly. If you push the up lever on the controller, it goes up in the air very quickly. There's no slow rise and slow taxiing and all that sort of delicate stuff. It flies about in a mad way. It doesn't have a great deal of stability, and when it lands, it doesn't always land the right way up. This drone does send out a picture from its little camera, but you can't monitor it from the ground, so you only get to see these pictures when you actually take the SD card out and put it into a laptop. As you can see, the stability is as expected, but there at least are some images. The drone we've been featuring in the last year is Colin's drone, which probably cost about 10 times as much as Jess's. You can see from this that it moves smoothly down to the ground. When it was taking off, we took this footage as it rises above the trees, and then I asked Colin if he'd hover it over the river. You can just park this up in the air and it'll obey the rules of video, where the camera doesn't move and the things in front of the camera do. For those who've done a bit of DIY, you'll know that this is a stud wall. It's the last thing we did before Christmas at the cottage in Trythin in Flintshire that I've been doing up during 2018. And this is where the bathroom's going to be. So we've recently put down new floors here, and now we needed a bit of a wall. But before we can put any boarding in, we now need plumbing and we need electrics, because these all go into the wall space. So I'm not here to tell you about that. I'm here to tell you that we're going to recap 2018 and look at all the work that's been done. It's easy to forget, but we started out with a flat roof that leaked, and that's why we've got no ceilings or anything in this part of the house, because they all got wrecked. So we regarded that as the top priority: get a flat roof on this part of the house and let it dry out, find out then what needed doing. While they were up on the flat roof putting that in, they found that the slate roof up the back of the house, the rear elevation, the builders call it needed reslating, and the timber and felt and everything wasn't in good condition. So that was redone shortly afterwards. So the roof is safe, the place is starting to dry out. What other damage has been done? The floor I'm standing on, well, that's a new floor. The joists were all rotten and so was the flooring, so all that came out, and for a while there was a gaping hole where I'm standing now, and you could see down into the kitchen. So the stairs, which are behind the camera, you'd come up the stairs and you'd stop here and look down, and there was nothing there. So thankfully we now have a floor. That was the next bit, and the final bit we did just before Christmas was the stud wall, and we can now put a bathroom back here, so you'll be able to follow this project during 2019.
Lights, camera, action!
Let's take a look at pixels and even megapixels. When you see an emoji or a little icon on your screen, you're actually looking at a load of little dots. And you can build up pictures like this on a piece of graph paper by colouring in the little squares in different colours. With this boy and girl, it's pretty obvious what they are until you start to get in closer. And if you saw this view first, you'd wonder what you were looking at. Here's an analogue video taken in 2004 in Carlisle. We can bring this up to full screen and still see plenty of detail. Our video from Carlisle is what's known as standard definition, so when you take it down to its original size, it's just a little square on this screen. Once the world went digital and the analogue TV was switched off, we went to high definition. This size is called HD Ready or 720p, and then we progressed to what's the maximum resolution being broadcast today by the TV companies of Full HD or 1080p. 4K ultra high definition is only used in internet streamed services like Netflix, but it does give you a lot more pixels to play with and allows us to zoom in and see what we were missing earlier on in this program. Back in New Brighton, we were watching the tall ships sailing down the Mersey and away from Liverpool.